Welcome to the Romantasy Library.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Romantasy Library. I'm your host, Kate Perkins, and today I'm interviewing Cortney Winn, Romantasy author of Vesselless, and she's currently writing Mateless, which I'm really excited to talk to her more about. Cortney, welcome to the show. I am so excited. I'm so excited to have you here. I literally cannot stop thinking about Vesselless. I think I finished this book a couple weeks ago, and it's still on my mind. So I'm excited to gush with you about your book.
Well, thank you for reading, and thank you for having me here. Yes. I am honored.
Awesome. So how are you doing today?
Good. I did my morning routine, wrote a scene in Mateless, and now I'm here. So yeah.
Now you're here. Hey, could you share what is your morning routine? What does that look like?
Okay, so I am the mug.
I did it again. I'm sorry, guys. You can't, if you're listening to this on audio, you can't see, but I purchased a very cute Vesselless mug from her, and I wanted to show it off. I also really love your sweatshirts.
Oh, thank you.
And so I was considering getting a sweatshirt too for fall.
I obviously wear them all year long. I think it's 80 degrees outside, and I'm still wearing it.
Are you wearing your Vesselless?
Okay, but my morning routine. So I am a full-time mom, a full-time business marketing student. So when I decided to write a book, the only time I could fit in was at 4:30 in the morning.
Gosh, before that is incredible. Yes.
So yeah, my alarm goes off at 4:30. My coffee is made by 4:30. I crawl out of bed and I just write. I've done it for so long now that I almost can't write any other time, and my body almost wakes up without my alarm now. Like I can't sleep in as much as I would want to sometimes. So on morning is all book stuff. The daytime is all mom stuff, and the nighttime is all school. So,
oh my gosh,
that's my routine.
You've got that down to a T. That is incredible. I think it's interesting how our bodies can adapt to those schedules. And, how do you sleep? How much sleep do you get a night?
Not enough right now. I only have 7 classes left, and so I'm keep reminding myself this is just a season of life, and I'll get through it. But right now I've probably between 4 and 6 on a really good day hours, and 4 on average. But what I do is during the daytime, I let my kids watch a movie and I take a nap, because otherwise I just couldn't do it.
Couldn't function. No. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. How long have you been waking up at 4:30, Cortney, to do this, to write?
Since I started my bachelor's degree. So a couple years. Originally, it started as an exercise routine. Like I would wake up and go running, but then I had to cut something out to do books, and so my exercise was the first one to go. So then I just kept that time slot for books.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and on your Instagram page, I love following you on Insta. Your stories are so pretty when you're outside. Is it like morning, like when you're walking? Is that in the morning, or when is that? Or at night?
That's like as the sun is coming up. I'm usually on the hill. Unless I have too much to get to that day, then I miss it. My husband goes to work at 7 in the morning, so if I can fit my walk in 6 to 7, that's when I do it. But sometimes the writing is just going, and so I miss my walk.
Yeah. No, it's gorgeous. Like the scenery where you live, I feel like would be very inspirational, because you're in Utah, correct?
Yes. I love outside my house.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, we have family in Utah, I think. Yes.
You do?
Yeah. And it's so gorgeous out there. Are you in the mountains? Are you near the mountains, or?
Yeah, so, well, I'm not in the mountains. I'm in, like, a rural town.
Okay.
And it's called Fountain Green, if anyone wants to look up the population number of Fountain Green. It's, like, really small. But I am, like, through a canyon, and I have, like, the Nebo Mountain on one side and the Manti on the other. So, like, all around is just mountains.
Oh my gosh, that's
It's
gorgeous.
so gorgeous. It's the prettiest place I've ever lived. And it's, like, this hidden gem in Utah that not many people know about.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's really small. Like every summer, they have this like sheep celebration. It's like it is small town, rural Utah. Like they go hardcore.
Oh my God,
about
that's amazing. I feel like our kids would love that. Two of them in particular are animal lovers, and I feel like they would absolutely have a ball with that. That's so fun. Are you born and raised in Utah?
Yes.
We're just
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And are you from that town too? Or how did you guys find this little gym?
No. So I'm from like Richfield area, Utah.
Okay.
It's like center Utah-ish. And my husband works for the DNR, Division of Natural Resources. So he works at fish hatcheries. So for if you don't know what that means, he raises fish and stocks them in the lakes and streams in Utah. So like if you go fishing,
cool.
If you go fishing, you are not catching wild fish. Like Utah has to stock all the fish for people to be able to sport fish.
That
like
is incredible.
So that's what he does.
Interesting. I've never met someone in that industry. I was wondering why he gets up so early, to go to work. Because sometimes with healthcare jobs, but it's
yeah. So there's only like a few locations where there's hatcheries in Utah, and Fountain Green is one of them. So he got offered the job here, and like we have to live on site, kind of.
Sure.
Like the hatcheries have housing for certain employees.
Oh, okay.
We live at the hatchery.
Really? That's so interesting. My dad loves fishing. So if he's listening to this, shout out to him. He loves like the one where it's like
I'm not a fisher.
So he would find this really interesting is all I'm saying. But he's a fisher. He likes to fish. Okay, so Cortney, let's start talking about Vesselless. If you could give a short blurb about your story, could you first share that with the listeners? And then we'll talk more about it.
For sure. So Vesselless follows the main character, Nazara. She can hear and perceive spirits better than those people around her. So she's constantly hearing and sensing things. And the magic system in Vesselless revolves around spirits, and usually what is called a caster, a person who can bond with a spirit and they both draw on each other's power. Requires like a ring. So people with a ring can usually bond with a spirit and kind of hear, but she can hear him regardless. Anyways, so her father is kind of a tyrant king. He stole the throne of this kingdom and kind of put her on it, basically. And a dark spirit starts haunting her a little bit, and she, spoiler a little bit, he's the dead king that her father dethroned, like usurped the throne from. And so his name is Dagon, and he has been living in purgatory for 10 years with the god of death. And the god of death says, I will give you freedom if you can capture Nazara's soul. And she has to give it to you willingly. So they end up bonding through the ring, through power, and he's trying to gain his freedom, and she's trying to win a tournament to end her betrothal and win the right to choose her own suitor. So that is a little bit about what Vesselless is about.
Yeah, and I will say when I initially learned about this story, I was skeptical a little bit in terms of like ghost spirits, not something that I normally read. But Oh my word. I loved this story so much. It was so good and so well written, and it really captured me. And I know, and we'll get more into it, but like there are multiple like kind of like realms or worlds within this. Like it's a complex story, but it also is written so well that it didn't feel overwhelming as I was learning about it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think I've told you this before. I started with multiple points of views because there was so much world building. And so when I really buckled down and started editing, I knew that I had to narrow it down just on Dagon and Nazara. And so a lot of snippets and clues and pieces of the world building stayed in there. And it will expand on those in later books. But you are not the first that I've heard that was skeptical about the ghost.
Yeah.
There is one TikToker that every time she posts a video about Vesselless, she always holds up the camera and says, "Don't worry, he can ghost and de-ghost."
Yeah.
I think there's this like, well, how is there a romance there if he's a
how
ghost?
does this work?
So yeah, like he's half ghost. He can turn into his ghost form or back to his human form, but he's not really in the realm of humans or like alive, if that makes sense. So
yes.
yeah.
I have so many feelings as I was reading this book, and yeah, I haven't read anything like this before. And so I think when I was initially reading it, I'm like, okay, I don't know about this. And then I got sucked in. And absolutely fell in love. I will say, for those who are listening who have not read this, there were some vibes to me, and I could be totally wrong, of like Throne of Glass and some of that bonding piece of like, I know we've talked about this before too, of like Fourth Wing, with what it's like to bond, right? Kind of.
Yeah, with
the dragons, but with ghosts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, even though there are some comps, I feel like it's a wholly new, like, original story. And I know I've talked with other authors and they're like, it's really difficult to write a fully like original story, just because there are so many concepts that have been done before. But this plot line is, I don't know. I thought it was really original. Sorry. Go ahead, Cortney.
No, you're good. I wanted it to feel familiar, like in the romantasy space. Like I wanted there to be some elements that felt familiar. And when you're writing in a genre, there's certain genre expectations. And
yes,
I feel like you have to, if you're going to write something so out in left field, like I kind of did, there has to be.
Yeah, like, sure.
Some things that feel like, okay, yeah, this is a romance. This is a romantasy. And the bonding, that was one. I mean, we've all read it before. I mean, there's an Aragon, Bonds with the Dragon, a Fourth Wing.
Yes.
I mean, even a Kotar, she bonds with who she's with. Not to spoil. I mean, I'm sure.
I know, but let's be real.
But
Queen Sarah J. Maas. No, I was going to say, and then also there's some vibes of Serpent in the Wings of Night. I always have a hard time with that title, but like with the trial piece, like, I don't know. I think so there were familiar aspects of what you're saying, but overall it was wholly original and so well written.
Thank you.
And I cannot stop thinking about these characters, the emotional depth and the emotional range of these characters and the character arc and development. So good. So everybody read Vesselless.
I actually read Serpent in the Wings of Night as I was kind of finishing my like rounding out of some characters.
Interesting.
So that might be why some of it bled into it, because I loved the complex relationship between the father and the main character.
Yes. Oh my God, I just got goosebumps. I can see that. Yes.
I will say that is where I really tapped into that relationship. And I was like, how can I deepen this sentiment? So I don't know if I nailed it, but
no, I think you nailed it. I think that was another aspect of like Throne of Glass, and I don't want to spoil for anybody who hasn't read that, but like that dynamic of two of the characters there of the king and his son, but there was some of that I was like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can kind of see. It's almost like if those two, like father-child relationships, kind of like came together,
merged.
Like,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
I definitely see that.
And I can't wait for Mateless because that one is more focused on Nazara's dad, correcto?
Yes, yes, it will have Walla and Nazar, and
gosh,
I don't know. I'm just telling you that it's feeling a little dark, so
that's okay.
I hope that it can.
Yep. Here's the deal. I love a good dark read because again, I'm a therapist and I love the piece of like characters finding their resiliency and that emotional healing and some of the character arc and to get to know the characters more, right? Like, yeah. I mean, I think if there are some pieces of like light, or like,
yeah,
and,
there's a line that I like to say on. Yeah. I totally know what you're saying. The line is different for everyone.
Everybody.
But yeah, there has to be some, like you said, some hope in there somewhere in the dark.
Somewhere to help me keep like feeling invested and rooting for the characters and to help have empathy for the characters, I think too. If that makes sense.
Yes. Have you watched Stranger Things?
Yes.
Okay. So this little kernel is like festering in my mind as I'm working on Mateless, and it's Billy. You remember Billy?
Yes.
That was my favorite side plot of the whole series. Entire series was Billy. And so I think that probably bleed into Mateless a little bit, and I'm excited.
That's interesting. And what a great Easter egg.
I don't think I'm spoiling.
What?
I mean, I said I don't think I'm spoiling anything.
No.
It was that feeling that I got from Stranger Things, and
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I will say, just insert, I think it was the last season, I got really spooked.
Really?
Yes,
with the clock in the
yes, okay. I can do spooky, but I think I'm a little bit of a baby. And so that's also where I'm like with the dark reads. There has to, I don't know. But yes, Stranger Things, that last season, woof. There were times where I like had to, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a baby. I had to like hide. It was.
Yeah, I can't spoil anything. I'm still waiting for the next season to come out.
Yes. But that clock, man, was creepy. Anyway, okay, back to this. So Vesselless, what inspired? So yeah, what compelled you to write this story? What led to you deciding like, hey, I'm going to write a book?
Okay. There's many points in my life that kind of just gradually accumulated into this drive to write a book. The earliest one I remember, I was working at a bank in Cedar City. We were freshly married, newlyweds, and like that time out of high school, you're married, it's like you've done all the things and now you're like, where do I fit in life? What is my career or my purpose, or like what's
your identity?
What's my identity?
Yeah.
And I was sitting behind the teller line, and the bank was dead. There was no one there at the time. And I was Googling like bucket list ideas because I was like, I need to find a hobby or a passion or something that like taps in. I'm a natural creative being. Like I have to have something. So, I mean, on my bucket list was like learn to speak another language, paint like a painting that was good enough to go like in my living room. That was
oh
on
my gosh,
like,
love
redo like a flip a house. I mean, this is silly, crazy things.
No, I love it.
And I actually did some things on my bucket list. Like I spent a lot of time learning Spanish. Like I know I'm not fluent, but the drive was there. I
That's
also ran
amazing.
a half marathon due to this bucket list.
I love
I was just
it.
going through all these things. Wedding cakes designing was on this bucket list, and I actually started a business. And I'm still on Google. You can Google Winn cakes and find
Cortney,
me.
that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
That's so awesome.
I spent years just trying to find my place. I did photography. I did so many things. And one on the list was write a book. It wasn't even my idea. I was Googling bucket list ideas and I threw it on there. I was like, I don't even care if the book is good. But that would be so cool to say I wrote a book. I mean, it could totally suck. But just to say that I sat down and I wrote 80,000 words would be cool. So, I wrote my first book. And it was called Embers of the Phoenix. And it was kind of like a sci-fi military-esque romance. It was like she kind of had lab given powers kind of thing, and she was a sniper. Anyways, that was my first book.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it had some dark elements too. But I was just learning to write, and I went to we joined a writing group on Twitter, and it was a lot of people that were aiming for traditional publication. And so when we would do beta reads and critiques and stuff like that, it was intensive. It was rip this out. That doesn't make sense. You use this word too much. The opening has to have this. It was so good for me. I thrive on just tell me what to do and I'll do the work to do it. Obviously some of it hurt a little bit, but I was so driven to learn. And so for a couple of years I just worked within this writing group, and I rewrote that book 3 times.
What was it called again?
Embers of the Phoenix.
Okay.
And I rewrote it to the point where I didn't even know what the plot was anymore because I had so many versions in my head, and I lost my initial seed of the story from it. And so finally, after years, I decided, I was like, I need to write something else.
Years?
Yeah, I've been, I think 6 or 7 years I've kind of been on this train.
You're amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. You know what's interesting? Just an insert real fast.
Yeah.
One author that I interviewed, and she's on sub right now, she said that the first book that she wrote, she was like, I will not let anybody read it. She was like, I just had to get it out, and maybe that was, and you worked really hard on it. And I can imagine too, when you work that hard on a piece of art or whatever, I don't know, this story, that it was was it hard to walk away from that?
It was really hard because I'm so stubborn in my mindset. I do not give up if it is important to me. And this book was very important to me. But it got to the point where everything was so jumbled in my mind, I couldn't see up from down. And so I was like, if I want to be a writer, I have to do this for me. So I stepped away. But once I made that decision to step away, I knew immediately it was the right decision. And it felt like a giant weight off my shoulders.
Oh, wow.
So it hurt, but it felt good at the same time. I don't know.
No, that's incredible. I feel like that's also a sign that was the right choice, of feeling that sense of relief and that a weight has been lifted when you make a decision to let go of something and then move on to something that might, because when we let go of something, then it can open up the door for other stuff,
Yeah. Well, I think part of becoming a writer, at least for me, is allowing yourself to suck.
That is hard. That is hard.
It's so hard. And allowing other people to see you suck.
It's so vulnerable. Yes.
It's so vulnerable. But there is absolutely no other way to grow as a writer like, I mean, sure, there's probably people that are born a prodigy and they can just string stories together from the womb. I don't know. They just do. But like, yeah, I had to suck. I had to suck really hard. I mean, that was bad. We edit that out.
I don't know. I kind of love it. I don't know. That was so good. And also very appropriate for romantasy genre. OMG. If you really want us to cut it, we can, but I kind of love it.
Okay, well, I will leave it to your discussion.
Okay, but honestly, when you said it at first, I was like, yeah, you just got to suck really bad. And then you were like, that sounded bad. Okay. Oh my God, I love it.
But my point was like, even like Vesselless moving forward, it's my first like debut novel.
Yeah.
And so I have to keep reminding myself that I still have so much room to grow and things to learn, and I just know that I can never like lose that desire to learn and to grow. And there's, looking back now on Vesselless, there's so many things I wish I could change, because the publishing process was so rushed for me that I look back and I'm like, oh, but it is what it is. And a lot of readers don't even catch it, or, you know.
Yeah. What pieces would you want to change? I don't know if that would be too spoilery though.
No. Like, I go through like my lines, my sentence structures. There's lines that feel a little cheesy to me now, or like that like don't mean the same as they did when I was writing it, or like now that I've had this much space and time from the project, I can see it like more clearly. But I mean, like I said, there's some people that just like love those parts, and there's always going to be people that don't. So it just being an author is like the craziest thing. Like, for just today, there was a TikTok, and the TikToker was like naming her 5-star reads, and Vesselless was on there. And
I love
so you get like this, like really high sense of like, oh yeah. And then in the comments, someone's like, I can't get into Vesselless, and like it's just like you're up
your
and
heart,
immediately
and
you're back down.
Yes,
and it is. I
such
like turn off reviews, because it's the same way. You'll get like a 5-star glowing review about how this and that, and then another one that it just wasn't for that audience. That person will come in and it will just take you back down, and it messes with your mental state so much. So I
can only imagine. I've talked to, I forget. Oh, I think it's Vanessa Lacey. Her pen name is VB Lacey, and she said, I was just looking it up real fast, but she said I think she's like completely turned off. Like, she doesn't read reviews, which is incredible to me. And yeah,
I'm the same.
It's so subjective.
It is. I used to like read the reviews because it was like my first book. I was excited,
Oh my gosh, I would too.
I mean, like the difference between some reviews are so strange, and I'm like, how are these people reading the same book? Because like one person like will say like Vesselless is like the next big thing, and the other one is like, this is the worst book I ever read. And I was like,
okay, that I don't understand, because for real, it was a 5-star read for me. Cortney, like, absolutely 100%. I loved it.
Well, thank you. So this part of my journey is learning to navigate that. And I mean, you get that with any book. Like, I look at my favorite authors and favorite books, and you have the exact same thing. And it's something, I mean, it's kind of like having children. Like, people tell you, but you don't know until you're in it. And then it does, it messes with your emotions. And I mean, my husband has been amazing. I mean, I'll tell him, I'm like, yeah, I feel down because of this. Yeah. And he will say, but remember that review just like 2 days ago, they raved about it, or, and so he's definitely been a rock through all of it.
That's amazing. I was going to ask at some point who you feel like your support system is through all of this, because I would have a hard time with critiques too. And I think it makes sense earlier what you're saying of like trying to turn off reading the reviews, because it is just so subjective. But that external validation, I can imagine, feels really good. So anyway, who would you say, is your support system? So your husband, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like right now, he has the boys outside banned from the house so that we can do a podcast. So yeah, it has been really fun because he is not a reader at all. Like he does not read fiction. When he reads like sports forums.
Oh my God, that's my husband. That is my husband. He does not. Yes.
So like when I told him that I was going to start a book, he was supportive. Like he, like, he's like, yeah, we can dip into our savings and pay for an editor. And I mean, editors are not cheap. Okay. Not at all. But he was, like he is a very feet on the ground person, very logical thinker. And I think he Googled how likely it is that a book is successful. And so he was hesitant but supportive at first. And he's seen all the crazy stuff that has happened with Vesselless. And he is like so excited now. And he is so wonderful to see that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I think it makes a world of difference when we have people in our corner, and especially
you can't do it alone.
No, especially when you see those reviews where like it's like whiplash. Like one review is like raving and then the other review is like, I don't get it or whatever. Oh, I mean, it's art and it's so subjective. Yeah.
I am like really excited. We're going on sub this month. So
yes, I want to hear about the publishing journey for you because I know it has been such a journey and a process and
Hey guys, and now time for another ad. Welcome to Callie and Maddie Designs, where fantasy meets fashion. Callie is the owner and designer, creating wearable merch inspired by our favorite fantasy books and beloved authors like Sarah J. Maas, K.A. Tucker, Penn Cole, who has been featured on this podcast. I'm so excited about that. Sarah A. Parker, who will also be on this podcast. I cannot wait, and Kara Douglas, and so many more. Every design is officially licensed by the authors, and Callie even works directly with them on designs for officially licensed designs, which I think is a really big deal. All of Callie's designs come from a pure book-loving mind, as she only designs for books that she feels passionately about. Guys, her designs are so cute. I have a couple shirts coming in for the Fate and Flame series by K.A. Tucker. I cannot wait, and I also have a Sarah A. Parker shirt coming in, which I cannot wait to wear and show off. If you guys are interested in checking out her website, you can use my code Romantasy10 to purchase something for 10% off, whatever you like. All of her designs are super cute. I highly recommend. It's Callie and Maddie Designs. She's on Instagram, and you can find all of her info there. Thanks, guys, and now back to the show.
So I mentioned my bucket list. On my bucket list was to be traditionally published. Like that was something. It wasn't because I had any preference. No. It was just something like I wanted to kind of just tick off the box, like check the box off. And so it became this like goal, like that I could look towards and say like everything, all the books I'm reading, the craft books, all the hours I'm putting into studying, is toward this goal. That's what drove me, because it was so out of reach. It motivated me, and so I went through all the betas with Vesselless, and I started querying, but I think I queried a little too soon. Like my submission package needed like one more final round of edits.
Can you share? I'm so sorry, Cortney. Can you share what goes into a submission package? What does that mean?
So much.
I know that's probably a lot. Sorry.
No, you're good. When you prepare to query agents, which is what you have to do if you want to go the traditional route, you have to, obviously your manuscript has to be done. It has to be the most perfect you can possibly make it. Like you don't need to hire an editor. But like you yourself, it needs to be as perfect as you can make it before you even touch the submission process or the package. But typically you have to submit your first 10 pages, a query letter, a synopsis. Yeah, those are about the 3 things. So
But
the
you had the
synopsis.
book. I'm so sorry to
Well, go
interrupt you
ahead.
again, but
You're fine.
you had the book written at this point, but you just submitted the first 10 pages. Is that correct? Or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agents will ask for different things. Some are like the first 5 chapters, 10 pages, 20 pages,
Oh
whatever.
my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So my query letter the query letter basically says who the main character is, what the stakes are, and what their goals are. It makes the whole purpose is to make the agent want to read it. And just to give you an idea, agents, depending on what agency they work for or whatever, they get up to like 200 queries a day.
No.
So you have
Really?
really. I read
Oh.
that off of the FOST agency. I want to say it's FOST agency. She has it on her blog, and she was talking about like her craziest days are in those kind of numbers. And so she talks about like you can have a good submission, but good isn't good enough sometimes, or like someone else's will be just slightly better or be better for the market or better for her list that she's actively trying to get. So like the chances are so small, and there's so much competition. So my query was good. It had gone through like 12 rounds of edits, and it had gone through um, my friend who is traditionally published. It had gone through a friend who works with the San Francisco Writers Conference
Oh
for
wow.
years.
Oh wow. Yeah.
It's gone through multiple readers and bookish people, and like it was good, but it was missing like what is makes Vesselless really unique, and it was the whole ghost and de-ghost element. Like that was the
That
one
wasn't
thing.
in it at that
No,
point?
well, it was talking about Nazara, how she was battling to end her betrothal, and then it talked
Sure.
about Dagon, who was trying to steal her soul. So it had like the plot in there, but just
Uh-huh.
like that tiny
Oh, okay,
little,
got you.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That little
I can
um
imagine that it's hard to like, yeah, like how to market your book is really difficult and how to include all of that in that query letter. Is that
yeah,
what you're calling it? Yeah, is that
yes,
what it's
right,
called?
and it has to be under 300 words. So like it has to be like
Concise.
together, concise. It was, anyways. So the majority of my queries had been sent in that like slightly not good enough
Mm.
stage, and so I was getting rejections, and
Mm.
uh, then I like realized the query state, and I at this point like my mental state was kind of like being drugged through the mud. So I was like, I'll send it to a couple more after I fix that element. And I still continued to get rejections. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know? And I started to consider indie publishing because it's like I worked
Yes.
way too hard to
Too many
not have
hours
any of
in.
this.
Yes.
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 Um, so I was sitting on the fence of when is enough rejections and when am I going to do indie or whatever. And I am still building my online following at this point. So on Instagram and TikTok. Anyways, I make a TikTok pitch that goes viral that says it was Fourth Wing compared to Vesselless. That was the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about all the ways that they're so different. And
Mm-hmm.
it went viral on TikTok. And like it's died down a lot now, but I still like just this morning got a notification on it, like it's still kind of going.
That's
Um
incredible. And I think
yeah,
that really speaks to your marketing skills. I know we've talked about this before, but like you are natural at it. Even if it doesn't feel that way, it feels very natural to me, like being a reader and consumer of your content. I don't know how to say that. I
well,
don't know.
thank you. No, consuming is right. But yeah, thank you. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel natural to me at all. Like to self promote
Mm.
goes against my grain so
Mhm.
hard. But it was one of those things like if you're going to,
Mhm.
especially indie publish, if you're going to indie publish,
You've got to do that.
you
Ooh,
have to do that. Even traditional publication, you need to
have some
market.
degree of that. Yeah,
I think
sure.
unless you are I mean, even Rebecca Yarros had an Instagram before she blew up. I followed her before the whole Fourth Wing. Like, well, it was just as Fourth Wing was coming out. Like, I read it like the same month it like released, and nobody.
Same.
Yes,
Same.
nobody knew about it. There was no character art. There was no buzz around it
there
yet.
was nothing. And I was like telling everyone, I'm like, you've got to read this book. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so I went and followed her, and I remember she had like 6,000 followers before Fourth Wing. Like, so unless you have a book that like just surges you into the like fandom world of books,
mainstream,
you still have to market yourself in your books. And she'd been traditionally published for a while. If I'm
because she had some contemporary romance books, and for sure, yes.
So like, it's just a part of today's world is to market yourself. Anyways, so back to my publishing.
TikTok, you did your TikTok.
The TikTok toast.
We can go down so many tangents, you and I.
I feel like everything in this journey goes back to this post on TikTok. Wow. So an agent sees it on TikTok like a couple hours after I posted, and she messages me via email and is like, "Hey, I love the pitch on TikTok. Send me your manuscript." And I was like, obviously so excited, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, all these other agents have been rejecting me. So like, what is the likelihood that this is real?
And at this point, I'm sorry, Cortney, real fast. How many rejections had you received at this point?
I think about 12-ish. I mean, I did not. I mean, I've heard some people blast queries into like the 80s and 90s. I just I couldn't. So I had only sent 16, and
I think that's amazing. Yeah.
So at this point, I had that like voice in the back of my head, like she hasn't read, like. Anyways, and she didn't ask for my word count, which seemed really weird to me. Like that's kind of a big thing for agents, because if it's too big, they can't sell it. If it's too small, then they absolutely know right away that it's not fleshed out enough, so that's like one of my first like signs that made me question her, the agent. But I went to like search her up, and I couldn't find her anywhere. Like she wasn't on Publishers Marketplace. She wasn't on Query Tracker. She didn't even have a TikTok. Like, so whatever she saw me on TikTok was like a generic numbered name.
Sure.
Because I went through, you know how you can see who viewed your account? I went through it. Gosh.
I don't have a TikTok, but
you can see who has like visited your account page.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anyone by her name or even close to her name, but there were a couple users that had just numbers and that had no profile picture, nothing. And so I messaged her back via email, and I was like, "Hey, I just want to be careful online. Like, why can't I find you anywhere? And
she was so smart. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. And
right or no? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know at this point. I mean, how the story ends, so I don't know if it was at this time. But she responds back like her professionalism was top tier. Like she was very kind. Every sentence was punctuated perfectly, which if it's a scam, usually you can like you can tell just by their writing almost, and that wasn't the case with her. And she explained that her and her senior agent had just broken off from an agency, a well-known agency that had dissolved. And they were just barely beginning their own boutique agency. And so that's why I couldn't find her anywhere, because she hadn't got her socials up yet. And they were working on a publisher's marketing page, all the things. And so I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like my husband found her listed on the agencies. It was on like Yelp. She was listed as an employee or something.
Yeah.
That was about the
Good job, husband.
Yeah, that was about the only place we could find her aside from her LinkedIn. So I'm like, okay, like she's on LinkedIn. She has some connections. there is one website that lists her as an employee of this agency. So I sent her my manuscript, and just like a week or two goes by, and it just starts festering in the back of my mind, like, was that the right thing to do? Like, did I mess that
Gotta
up?
love anxiety.
It is, yeah. And I was like, is that a scam? Because for those of you who don't know publishing, like, if I gave someone my manuscript via email, like I did, they could take it to Kindle Unlimited and post it like that day, like, and put their name on it. I don't know why. I mean, it's not great. Like, I don't think it's really a thing, but like, to me, I'm like, you could take someone's work, post it on Kindle Unlimited for free, and you could get money from it. Like, so I was thinking, like, is that maybe what's going on?
And after you've worked so hard on this,
Yeah,
like that would have been really scary.
it was. And I have anxiety anyways. My nerves were like an all-time high.
I can only imagine. That would have been so scary and hard and vulnerable. And anyway.
Yeah. So I look at their website again of their new boutique agency. It's very bare. It's just the bones of this website. And I like look up the address that's listed on there, and it's not. I can't remember what it was, but it was not an office building, like an agency building. It was like a Staples or something, if I remember right, or like something that was like, okay, that's a flag, and I'm like trying to calm myself down and talk myself out of freaking out. Yeah. And then I'm like, I'll just message the owner of the agency that she said she used to work for, right? So I email the owner, and I said, can you verify that this employee used to work for you? And she responded and said, I've never heard of her.
Oh my God.
My husband's like, no, don't freak out. She said she was an assistant. Maybe there is a chance that she was just overlooked by this owner, like maybe she just had a big company, So I messaged the owner back. I said, she said she was an assistant. Is there any chance you could have like overlooked her? And the owner responded, and she's like, there is a chance that the senior agent hired her own assistant. And then in that case, I wouldn't know her. So that was what I was working with.
Well, okay, so you Googled and the address was like a Staples. You reached out to her previous employer and she was like, I've never heard of her. So that makes...
Like I had so many...
I don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I was bawling. Yeah. And at this point, I almost just posted my book free on my website because I was convinced that someone had just ran off with it. I mean, it's not a big thing. Like looking back now, it's kind of silly and like overreacting. That now I can see how I was like building this monster up inside my head. But I know that my work is mine as soon as I create it on my computer. But the thing was, I didn't have the money, like monetary means to fight a legal battle to prove that it was mine. Like I just
100%.
wasn't. Like it just was not going to happen. Like if someone stole it and put their name on it, it would be theirs. Like I just didn't have it in me to fight it.
Yeah.
So my friend talked me out of publishing it for free on my website.
Good. She's like, I love that friend. Whoever you are, I love you.
She is amazing. And she's like, just post it on to Kindle Unlimited. As it is, just take it and throw it on to Kindle Unlimited. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. I went to Canva, made a cover, threw it on there, stuck it to Kindle Unlimited, and there's a waiting process of like 3 days before you can find out if Kindle accepts it. And they would reject it if it already existed on their platform, So I'm like, is it already on there under a different name?
Oh my gosh, hyperventilating. Title? Yes.
So when I woke up one morning and it was on there, I was like, it was on there. I mean, like, it was
relief.
Stolen.
Yes.
And so,
wow.
I mean, people that started reading it and they were reading kind of an unedited version and they were loving it.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I just went on with my life. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going indie.
On with my life. I love it.
And I'm like, I guess I'm going indie. So then I'm like, that means I got to figure out how we're doing physical copies. And I had heard multiple authors struggling with the pre-order process on Amazon. Like Amazon would cancel their pre-orders. It was becoming kind of a thing.
Which is now, it is a thing, isn't it?
It is a thing. And I have one friend, Sarah Page, she's author of Illusion of Stars. She has emails from Amazon saying that everything is fine and everything is ready to go. And they just pulled it from her. Like, there was nothing wrong on her end. And so
that book is on my TBR, by the way. But yes, I saw that on Instagram. That's awful.
So the whole reason I did pre-orders on my website was because of that Amazon thing. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't want to mess something up on Amazon.
100%. I get that. That makes sense.
Also, I did it as a little bit of a fundraiser to earn money for edits on the next book.
Brilliant. Did that help?
Yes. Yes. Like it was, they were priced a little higher because I wasn't sure how much it would be to order, but this was my first time. So I was like, I don't know how it is going to ship hundreds of books to my house and sign them and package them and print the art that went with them. And
you did all of that, right? You do all of that.
Yeah. So like the only, like these sorry, I have all my notes in here, but like these books that went out as pre-orders and are signed, they have an ISBN number that like is not accessible. Like I can only order the ISBN. And that's key because of what happens later. So
yeah, and I'm so bummed I missed out on the first edition, but it's okay.
It was not published. Does that make sense? Like people can go and order this book. They had to order it on the website. Yes. So I am getting ready for pre-orders. Like orders are coming through and someone messages me a picture of a book that has the exact same cover as mine. It's just a different color.
God. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's the same friend that talked me out of publishing my book. She was amazing. And she's like, I know someone who can make a cover before you publish. And so we went with that route. And this cover, I didn't see it until the day before I ordered copies for everyone. Like, you know, it was just a do or die. It was either I like it and we order copies, or I don't like it and we still order copies.
That is incredible to me that like it came together like that, you know, and that you couldn't change it if you didn't like it. So you were really putting your faith in this designer.
Yes. And anyways.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I send all of my signed pre-orders out. Like I literally have a giant stack of books in this room. Like and I get an email from an Italian publisher asking for my manuscript because I'm assuming that they got it from that TikTok that is still going viral. And so they're like, that's something we want to read and see if we want to acquire it into our publication. So I get another email. And
but this is different than the other agent.
No, this is a publisher.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Oh yeah, this is a publisher. Okay. Sorry guys.
So
I'm following.
No, you're good.
Yes, agents I'm following.
Sell your books to publishers. Publishers are who pays you money for your books. So this, I know, because a lot of people don't know quite the difference.
It gets confusing.
It is.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, this publisher, this is really a big publisher, like a really big deal publisher, messages me through email and is like, can you send us your manuscript? And I'm like, I have been scammed before. So I reach out to my friend who knows an agent and I was like, will you forward her this email just to ask her if this is a legit thing? Like, is this how they reach out? Is this real?
Yeah.
Anyways, she messages the agent, and the agent is like, send me your query. Like, I want that manuscript too, because that agent or that publisher is real, and it's kind of a big deal publisher.
It's kind of a big deal, Cortney.
I still haven't even heard back from the publisher at this point.
Okay.
As of now, which they can take a while. Anyways,
I've heard that.
The new agent, who is my agent right now, Alex.
Congratulations. So exciting.
She's
it happened.
I know it happened. I'm spoiling the ending, but so she requests my manuscript, and she was like, you should query other agents right now while you have this interest on your book. Like, she was very helpful in saying, like, capitalize on it. Just do it. And so I went back to Query Manager, Query Tracker to query more agents, and I found the original agent, that she was real. Like, it just happened that I fell in that weird timeline before they were established as a new boutique agency, and just a weird
wow
thing with the owner and the dissolving of that agency.
But she's
I just felt
real.
Smacked. Yeah, she was real.
Oh my gosh.
And so I did all of that launch and everything. But if I hadn't done that,
right,
a lot of other things wouldn't have fallen into place.
100%.
There wouldn't have been, like, reviews and people building hype over Vesselless, and so much went on.
And I wonder too of the timing of the agent getting settled in this boutique, if maybe it just wasn't the right timing, and that would have really freaked me out too, honestly. Yeah. The address wasn't lining up for whatever reason, the other employer did not recognize the name. I think I would have gone into an anxiety spiral as well. And so everything kind of happened the way that it was supposed to happen, even though it sounds like it was incredibly painful and hard. And but you self-publishing led to these next steps.
Yes.
Wow.
I actually reached back out to her, and I apologized. I told her what had happened, and I said, I just apologized because I felt like I would have, and I've never mentioned her name or anything, so that nothing comes
out of respect.
Out of respect. Well, from the beginning, I never mentioned her name.
Yeah.
Because on the off chance that she was real, I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, for sure. So did she respond to your email?
Yeah, I had said that another agent had requested, and then explained what happened, why I decided to publish, and she was like, that's great, you have interest in your manuscript, but she had moved on to a different manuscript at that point. So I really think I was led to the agents that I was supposed to be with.
I have goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, and then since they were reading my manuscript. They took a couple weeks to read my manuscript. I have two agents, I should say. They're a team, Brenna and Alex. And
I was a little confused because I'm so sorry to interrupt again. Because I think I saw on your Instagram post that there are two. So is it? Yeah. So you have two agents at the same company?
Yes.
Okay.
They're working as a team.
Gotcha.
To represent me. So
cool.
Yeah, Brenna and Alex from Transatlantic Agency. Anyway, so
shout out.
They're amazing. So while they're reading my book, I got interest from Entangled Publishing, another publisher from another foreign, asking for foreign rights, an audiobook request to contract an audiobook out. And then they have agencies that are solely dealing with foreign publishers. And that agency reached out to me and was like, we can hook you up with a lot of foreign publishers if you want.
That's amazing.
So as they're reading this book, I'm just sending them along my emails that keep coming through. And
Cortney, what a ride. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they ended up offering. Fun fact, they messaged me on my birthday and said, we want
Happy birthday.
I didn't ever tell them that. They don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, now they do if they're listening to this.
They're listening. Yeah, my
Best birthday present ever.
was the best birthday present. They messaged me and said, we want to schedule a call with you. And I got on the call and I told them where I was because I had only sold these. I had not published. And so they're like, let's go for traditional publication. Like, you are not really published yet. Just hold, like, you still can do it if you want. So
wow.
We have one more round of edits to go through on Vesselless, and I think they were mainly focused on some of the world building details to like help clarify some things.
Sure. Cool.
So I told them I was up for whatever edits they wanted to do. So I'm waiting on those edits.
Do they pay for that then, or is that
they do it themselves? So Brennan.
Oh wow. Okay.
They both have experience prepping manuscripts. So
see, I don't know these things. Is that normal for an agent to do that?
Are they varies? I mean, every agent I feel like helps prep a manuscript to some degree, but like I have read some agents are so booked with clients and they have so much clout already that they have said right in their bio that if your book is not like pristine, perfect, ready to go, they will not even consider you because they have too much on their plate already, you know? So
that's amazing.
I think it just depends agent by agent.
Yeah. Wow.
So it goes on sub this month. It's not on sub right now, but
but it will be soon.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. Oh my gosh. What a journey, Cortney. And it sounds like you're finding the value in it though, of like, okay, this is, even though it was incredibly challenging and I can only imagine emotionally painful going through that ride and that journey with, you know, everything that happened that led to this point, but that you're recognizing this was the journey that needed to happen to get to where you're at right now. And
it's been a ride.
It's been a ride.
Like I cried and jumped for joy and cried some more.
Oh my gosh. And so then are you still on Kindle Unlimited then? Like how does that work while your book is still being edited?
Yeah, so what's going to happen, it's on Kindle Unlimited right now. It will remain on Kindle Unlimited because they've said that they being my agents, that those page reads and like the hype growing for Vesselless will help it while it helps up. They're like,
that makes sense.
Publishers will be quick to snag a book that is selling as well as yours. So once we make the edits, I will just update the Kindle version with the edits.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Kindle. Yeah. Awesome. So. Yes. If any publishers are listening to this, pick up her book. When it comes out. Oh man, what a ride. And here you are. Do you feel like, are you able to breathe a little bit more deeply now? Does it feel like, or are you still like up here? Do you know what I'm saying? Is it still like a roller coaster? Like for a second, after that I was offered and I knew that I was going to accept. And like as fun fact, there was another agent that requested my manuscript. And so Alex and Brenna offered, and this other one was like, I will read it and give you an answer. And so I knew I was going to accept one of them. And at that point, a weight had kind of come off my shoulders a little bit because I was like, okay, like this, I feel validated now that, but then now it is the, like, I have a lot of people messaging me for physical copies, like, on a date. I feel like I was one of the ones that reached out to you. I'm like, I want a physical copy, Cortney. I can't distribute them because we are trying to go for traditional publishing. And it's a lot. It's waiting right now. And I feel like that is my weakest ability is to wait. I am a goer and a doer. And like, I have to stay going to keep my mind busy. And so this like period of like, I can't edit because I'm waiting on those edits. And I'm just working on Mateless to try and
fulfill that need to do.
Yeah.
But it's
Wow.
hard to wait and not
Yes.
second guess, like, well, am I missing the window of momentum by not having books out? Like, is traditional publication like was that the right choice to make, or would I have been better off having
Oh my gosh.
copies?
Yes.
You know, it's a lot of those anxious thoughts that are just, they come to me whether I want them to or
I
not.
know. And there's so much that you can't control here, you know, that it's like kind of hard, I can imagine, to let some of that go. And there are pros and cons with going the indie route and pros and cons with going the traditional route. And I mean, yeah, I think at this point it sounds like you're trying to trust the process a little bit, you know?
Mentally, I made the choice as like, this is for past Cortney, who set her sights on traditional publication. And even if this was not the best choice of the two options, it was the choice that I needed to make to kind of put closure on that dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, to say like, okay, I had a goal and I hit it, and I can move on and do other things, and you know.
That's incredible. I love it.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, and I can't wait to see where it leads, you know, on this journey. And I wanted to ask you too, a reminder of how many books will be in the series again, or that you're anticipating. How many books would you like to be in the series?
So, fun fact, I am a pantser. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't, like, this one thing about, like, Entangled Publishing, when they messaged me, they're like, we are interested in the series, but we want to know, like, the plot for all the books you have planned. Like, they wanted, like, they wanted full on, like, detailed plot, and I was like,
that's not how I roll, folks.
That's not how I roll. So, but in my head, I have enough for 2 novellas and for sure 3 solid Romantasy books.
Yay!
So there is a potential from 5 to 6, depending on how that last part of the series works out. And there will be multiple couples, so it will be kind of structured like Throne of Glass, where
nice.
it incorporates other couples, and they all surround the main plot. So you have to get information from each one.
Yes.
So
no, I love that. That's great. And I love a good series. It's hard for me when I get invested in a story. I mean, I love standalones they're great, but I prefer a good series so that I can keep investing in
the world.
Yes, I love it.
I have read standalones, but I have never found a standalone that I was like, yeah, this fulfills me. Like, no, I need more. Like,
I
you're
need
saying
more. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't even know how I would write a standalone, because it's just so much in my brain for a book that I can't even fit it into a series, let alone like a single book. Yeah. I don't know how people do it. Props.
I don't know either. Well, and being a pantser too, that makes sense of like, as you're writing things come to you, is that kind of, or what does your process look like?
I have one like scene or feeling or sentiment that I want in the book. And for Vesselless, it was that very end scene. You know what I'm talking about. Like,
Cortney, you did us dirty. Just kidding. She did not do us dirty, but there is a Cliffy at the end of this book. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, it was the sacrifice there from one of the main characters.
Yes.
Her heart is, and everything. I was like, that is the story I want to write this book around. And so everything from the world building, from the dialogue, it all fed to that scene. And I had to say, like, okay, how can I give this scene more impact? And I like go back to the first, and I start like weaving something in, and I'm like, well, that doesn't fit that scene. Like, how can I make this scene happen? And so I'm like, I have to go and add more plot points to get there. And it's weird because it's like you have to build the puzzle around that piece. You can't throw in, or at least this is how I feel. It works in my brain. Other people might see it differently. But there's choices I couldn't make because of that scene. And so the book almost wrote itself because it had to fit. So
yeah,
that makes any sense. It makes sense.
I think so. I mean, Yeah, I have a theory. Okay, so what have you ever done like the Myers-Briggs?
Is that the like NFJ? What? Yes, I am trying to remember what I
What
am.
are you?
I was the rarest one, I think. It was. I know there was a J in it and an N in it.
Oh, okay. Which is interesting. Okay, so maybe my theory isn't totally okay. So I'm an INFP. So so the P's are like P versus J. Oh my God, I don't even know. Whatever, how we got into this. But my theory was, and I think sometimes this works, that the J, they tend to be a little bit more of like the structured folks. They need to do more of like the detailed, like the plotting and things of that nature.
Really?
But P's tend to be a little bit more like fly by the seat of their pants, but like it's organized in their brain, even though somebody else looking on the outside looking in would be like, this doesn't look organized. It's like, but it's organized to me. Like, for instance, my husband, he will go into my mess and move things around and then I can't find them. I'm like, and he's like, you didn't know that it was there. I'm like, no, I swear to God, I knew that it was there and you just moved it. And now I'm going to have to rework it in my brain that it's now over here.
I will take that. I'll take the test again.
Take it again. Okay.
But like, I am a very routine structured person.
Okay.
My
which is interesting. That is. So maybe, you know what though, here's the caveat. So J's, they tend to be more structured and routine and they base decisions off of that. Like, so as they're taking in information, they need to have it like structured, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. That is interesting.
I'll take it again and I'll let you know what I am. I'll post it on my
curious
story.
About it. Yeah.
And it in the highlight so then you guys, if anyone can listen, can go find it. But
the N though makes sense for you because I think S's tend to be more like very like detail oriented and fact based. N's tend to be like more like the intuitive folks tend to be more looking at like the bigger picture and then can draw down from there. So that makes sense. Maybe that's where that piece comes in for you.
I will.
Anyway, so interesting. And as with your book Vesselless, is there a character that you connect with most?
I know it sounds kind of cheesy to say, but Nazara, like when I first started writing Vesselless, it wasn't even about Nazara. Like there was a whole nother main character who will come later in the series, but I started on her and I switched over to Nazara's point of view and something just stuck for me with her. And that's why I was like, no, I'm going to write about Nazara. And it was a lot of overcoming obstacles and mental hardships and hard things without losing the sense of who you are or your loyalty or the soft part about yourself. You know, like living in a hard, dark, cold world and being still soft, yet surviving and thriving in this world. And that's
beautiful.
What drew me to her. She just never freaking gives up.
No, she doesn't.
I can be more like her.
Yeah, she perseveres, you know. And then I love that piece too of what you said, that there's that level of softness, you know, and that she's like inherent, like she's, I don't know, the piece of like looking at of like people good or bad or whatever, but like her heart is in a place of like wanting to take care of other people too, right? Like she's got a good moral compass, I feel like is what I'm trying to say. And she's soft and she's caring, you know.
I think
underneath it all,
based on the feedback from I've heard a lot of people say, is Nazara is very complex in it.
Like she's complex, yes, in a good way. I love it.
And so she's not the typical like daggery female, I would say, but she is not like a spoiled brat either. You know, I'm like,
no,
I don't know, but she has a lot of different facets to her. And so
a lot of depth and a lot of range. Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. I was going to say there are a ton of trauma themes throughout this book. And as I was reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so much heart here, you know, and how these characters have like grow from the trauma. And it definitely feels like, you know, that you've either experienced some of that, I don't know, but like, or, you know, you being an empath, you're able to really identify with these stories. And anyway, it was really beautifully written with these characters and what they've gone through, and very trauma informed
So I
and
wrote the
well
trauma
written.
well.
Yeah,
I feel like I
absolutely.
can ask you since you're a therapist.
What? Oh, yeah.
If I wrote
No,
the trauma. I mean,
yeah,
that's how I have felt trauma in my life, or like
yeah.
that was partly me healing from past
Mm-hmm.
traumas. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
trauma doesn't have to be like
Mm-mm.
the whips, like it was
Right,
in Vesselless. It can be like
right.
being bullied in school, like I was,
Mm-hmm.
or going
Mm-hmm.
through a parent's messy divorce, like I did, or like
100%.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not anything that isn't fairly average for people
Mm-hmm.
through life. But yeah, it was very
Yeah.
healing for me to write.
Yeah. Very cathartic. And I think too, how I define trauma is anything that's had a lasting negative effect on your life. So it doesn't have to be like what you're saying, like some of the traditional, like what I think, I don't know, what we think trauma is or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. As you're writing Mateless, like as you're continuing the story, how has that felt? Because it is a shift of like perspective, right? From
Yeah,
Nazara. Yeah. So how has that felt? Like,
it's been
yeah.
really good, like, because
Okay.
he is still, it's gonna be, like I said, kind of like Billy in
Uh-huh.
Stranger Things. He's
Yes.
a villain. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's done bad things, but when you open up his past and see why and how he got there, and but like
Mm-hmm.
Vesselless, like there's still some humanity left in him, as you can see
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so he's kind of like just the opposite of Nazara and
Mm-hmm.
interpreted his traumas in a different way.
Uh-huh.
He had felt weak so many times and stomped on so many times that like he didn't want to feel that way anymore. And so, but
Mm-hmm.
all of his
Mm-hmm.
sacrifices were out of love. And that's what took him down, is those
Okay.
moments where he was vulnerable and he like reached for that power to save someone else, and that's what just
Mm-hmm.
continued to drive him down, and people
Mm-hmm.
didn't appreciate what he did or didn't see the sacrifice that he made, and so
Mm-hmm.
he's just really like, his whole theme in Vesselless is don't care for anyone because they
Mm-hmm.
are a weakness and they will wreck you. And so that is
Wow.
his story. But we're getting all of, like, the skeeves and the rogues that are in Vessels, but they don't go into detail. They just mention them because
Mm-hmm.
he's
Mm-hmm.
protecting Azara from these external forces. And
Mm-hmm.
his slogan is "Fix your face, Nazara." Like,
Yes.
and so you can
Yes.
see the reason behind that and why he's trying to protect
Mm-hmm.
Nazara this whole time, and while he's simultaneously just being
Mm-hmm.
sucked deeper and deeper into this black hole that he's
Mm-hmm.
going to. So, yes.
You are like queen of writing complex characters. I love it.
Well, thank
I
you.
love it. Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting to see beyond, and to get a deeper look into him and, his motivate, like what kind of sculpted him. I think it's really interesting how trauma, like how people can respond differently to it, right? Like he
Yeah.
definitely responded a ton differently than, Nazara did. And yet they both have had trauma.
But
So
Nazara had him as an example
yeah.
to look up
Mm-hmm.
to and say, like, well, this is what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you go
Mm-hmm.
that way, and so I've
Yeah.
noticed that's how it goes in parent-child relationships,
Yeah.
is very much like you either
Mm-hmm.
fall exactly into your parents' footsteps or you fall exactly the opposite direction because, so,
Yes.
and I don't know if
That is really interesting.
that's not a
No,
professional observation.
no. I think, anecdotal, and there are lots of theories like within therapy and the therapy world where that definitely lines up, and parent-child relationships, we call that attachment therapy or theory. It's so important. And like how we do relationships even as adults based on anyway, relationships and childhood and all the things.
Yeah.
So that is, I think that's I think it's amazing that you take some of that perspective, and I think that helps bring depth into your characters.
Well, thanks.
That you have, some of
The
that
whole
trauma
Mazar
informed.
story stemmed from one of my beta readers had a crush on Mazar to begin with.
Really? That's so
Yes.
interesting.
It got my mind thinking,
Interesting.
and it just stemmed from that. And I was like, I bet I could make
Yeah.
And then when I was trying to write book 2, picking up where book 1 left off, there was so much that you don't know. And I was like, but Mazar knows all of it, so why don't I just tell it from his point of view? And
I love it. Are we going to see any cameos of Nazara or can you share?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes. I mean, I'm planning to end Mateless with the intro of book 2 with Nazara.
Say that one more time. Okay, sorry.
You know how in Vesselless the end chapter is the first chapter of Mateless? I'm hoping to do the same thing with Mateless.
Cool. Yes.
But it's just a novella, and I'm already struggling to keep it down to 40,000 words, which is size.
Wait, Mateless is a novella? I don't think I knew that.
I'm really trying to keep it a novella.
Okay.
Because I don't want to leave everyone on that cliffhanger and then throw.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm trying my hardest to condense it to.
I will say this is not your book at all, but I will say that was one of the hardest aspects for me with Throne of Glass when we reach the ending of that one book and then it totally shifts. I'm like, oh, good. I don't know.
But I have not picked up the series again since that book because I haven't had
no judgment.
And where it cut off that series for so much,
dagger to the heart. I pushed through. It's still that character. I didn't fall in love with that character, which some people were like, oh, I totally love that character now. I don't love that character from that, but I have a better understanding. Anyway, but I pushed through. I get you.
I was really struggling with that decision because of Tower of Dawn. I was like,
thank you.
I don't want that to happen because I know how I felt when I hit it. And I know there's a lot of people that will read it and love it anyways, but
no shade to Sarah J. Maas. I love her and all of her. I love her. But I did struggle there.
Yeah, I was like, I wish she would have made one giant book and put the chapters of Tower of Dawn in there because then it would have been consumable for me. And so, and then I think, like you said, it also made it hard because she had already written that character off in our minds.
Yes.
Descending the ladder. And so our care for him had kind of gotten too far down, at least
too far down for me too. For me
to want to pick up a 500-page book of this.
I know that's a huge investment.
After
I love that
cliffhanger.
Oh my God, what a big cliffy. I know. No, I think that's so good that you're recognizing some of that. And thank you for it feels very much like you care.
I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that.
To have built Mazar up enough to have this intrigue there to wonder what the heck happened to this guy. Who is he? So he wasn't quite as far down on the ladder.
Yeah.
And then shorten that book as much as I can so that we can pick back up into book 2 and our world knowledge and everything, all the stakes are immensely higher because of that novella.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I
love it. Just a couple more questions. Okay. But I'm also wondering too, how does it feel writing some of those spicy scenes? I'm curious, talking with all of these authors.
It was the first one I've ever written, and the whole time I was like, what if my aunt reads this? What if my grandma reads this? And both my grandma and my aunt ordered my book. So
that's amazing.
The first time that I wrote it, the early version on Kindle Unlimited, was not as spicy as it is now.
Okay.
And I had one reader who read it, and she's like, my only real complaint was that the spice it wasn't spicy. It wasn't as good of a payoff for that slow of a burn, Oh, and I was like, I do want to write spice. It's just I don't want to be terrible at it.
Yes.
I'll be terrible at fight scenes. I will be terrible at any other scene, but I do not want to be terrible at a spy scene. So I was holding back a lot. And when she said that, I was like, well, I haven't printed books yet, so I have the opportunity to change it. And so I went back through and I was like, I need to just drop the thoughts of who's going to read this and just write.
Yeah.
Price. And it was fun, and I hope that I can continue writing them. I don't know how some authors get so creative with them, because
I can only imagine that. Yes.
We'll see how that part of my writing grows, but I don't think I'll ever get to some level of some authors, and that's okay, because it's just, I just gotta be who I am, I guess.
Just be you. And the payoff is great. Yes. And I think that was really great feedback from one of the readers of, like, especially if there's slow burn.
Yeah.
I want it to pay off at the end. Well, so that makes sense.
I went back and I read it, and I hadn't messed with anything in the book so long that I knew exactly what she was saying. And I was like, you are so right. And so I changed it. And I mean, I sent it back to my beta team who had already written or read the first, and they read the second, and they're like, yes, this is it. Yes.
This is it.
I could tell by their reactions that they were so glad that I amped it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
That I hesitated with is because Nazara isn't experienced. Yeah. So I was like, how can I still maintain that level of character without getting cringy, without you know what I'm saying, like full force. She's a vixen and knows everything and so that was a big.
It was not cringy at all. No, it was so good. It was so good. So I'm so glad that you took that feedback.
Yeah,
it also shows that you care. I love that.
I do care. Yeah. And I'm so glad I did it. And fun fact, I
love your fun facts.
Right before I amped up that scene, I had just finished going through the scene where he talks about, like, where she makes that comment of, like, what she was thinking about and how what she would do if he was alive and she could touch him when he so then I was like, I should incorporate that into the spy scene. And so
I'm so glad yes, so good. So good. Well, Cortney, I'm gonna do, like I said, I'd love to do some, like, rapid fire questions. Okay. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
Here.
Love it.
I'm such a homebody.
Yes. Okay. If you could be a fae, vampire, witch, or mermaid, who would you be? What would you be? Yeah. What power would you have?
Mind control.
Ooh, love that. What's your favorite trope?
Enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
People hate on it, but they can hate on it. I love it. Eat it up.
What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Oh, that's interesting. Because there's some pink, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It looks good on me. I like it. That's my
love it. Okay, one of your favorite reads this year.
Manacled.
Okay, I have not read that. Okay.
I'm stuck on Draco Malfoy.
Ooh, interesting. Oh gosh, you know what? This is supposed to be rapid fire, but now I'm kind of going down a tangent. I went to Barnes & Noble like a couple months ago, and one of the employees there recommended me, to read Manacled. So that's so interesting.
Have you heard much about Manacled?
What was that?
Have you heard much about Manacled?
No. I think something about,
Okay, I'm gonna side tangent. She got picked up from a publisher, and Manacled will not be available to read after this year online. So if you're going to read it, you need to go.
I better do it fast.
It is thick. Okay, I hopped on because it's just an e-document. You have no idea how big it is. It's thick. It's like the size of 4 books almost.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
400,000 words. Yes. So like Vesselless is 117,000.
Holy macaroni. Okay. Yes.
It's so good.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. Are you an e-reader, hardcover, paperback? What do you prefer to
All
read?
of them. Whatever is in front of me, I consume. So
what's your beverage of choice when you're reading?
Diet Coke. I think we all
Are
know
you a morning, an afternoon, or an evening reader?
nighttime.
Okay. And where do you prefer to read? Inside, outside? Well, I guess if you're nighttime, I don't know.
If the plot is good, I will read anywhere, but
Yeah.
the couch with a blanket.
Oh, that's perfect. Love it. Well, Cortney, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. It's been an honor, and I'm so thankful for our time together. Is there anything that you want your readers to know or the listeners to know? Anything?
Find me on Instagram, TikTok. My handle is Cortney L Winn, and there's no U in my first name, so that helps you find it. I keep up to date in my stories, and sometimes I post the juicy tidbits, snippets in my stories. So like my followers who are following my stories will see it, but the rest of the people won't. So, and I do that because in case I change it, it's not embedded on my timeline.
Sure.
But yeah, there I am.
Yeah. And we'll be following along with your journey. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I will keep updates on Vesselless and the sub process, and ETA on books, and ETA on Mateless, and that's where you find me.
Things. Yeah, and folks can still read Vesselless on Kindle Unlimited.
Vesselless on Kindle Unlimited. It will remain there for the foreseeable future. So, well, I am honored to be here. So thank you so much for having me. And I have loved being on your podcast.
Yay! Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yes, anytime.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode with Romantasy author Cortney Winn. As we discussed, Cortney wrote Vesselless, which is now on submission. I can't wait to hear more about that and the status on that. So also stay tuned on her Instagram for more info on that. She is currently writing Mateless, the prequel to Vesselless. This episode was so much fun. I had so much fun laughing with Cortney and also talking about her writing process, all of the mental health themes in Vesselless, and what to expect for her future projects, and just so much more. Thank you guys so much for being here and for helping me to celebrate, promote these amazing authors who write fanciful stories that make my heart sing. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Romantasy Library. There are many more episodes to come with amazing authors, as well as deep dives into various writing processes, general life conversations, some spicy spice, of course, mental health discussions, favorite tropes, and many tangents. If you're feeling generous, please feel free to leave a 5-star rating and review. Thank you so much for being here and helping to celebrate these amazing authors. Lastly, Cortney's website is CourtneyLWinn.com. You can also find her on Instagram and TikTok. Again, Vesselless is currently on Kindle Unlimited for your reading pleasure, so go read it. It's awesome. Thank you guys so much. See you next week.